thoughts on buying Defence Housing Australia projects? I wouldn't buy new, as I understand you're buying the developers' margins, but would you buy as second or third owner once the market is caught up? Are there any downsides to permanent long-term leases? I believe you're locked in with a real estate agent that it's a much higher management fee, around 16%, but they cover any minor repairs, and at the end of the defence lease, they refresh the house up to new standards, new carpet, fresh paint, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, second and third leaseholders, I still go back to the fundamentals. If there was something in that location, that 80% of the heavy lifting is in the location. So if you have that opportunity, people are attracted to that security of 100% occupancy over that period of time, and the sweetener in the end. The sweetener in the end is being paid by the 16% that you're paying as management fee. So it's double what the standard management fee should be, maybe even a little bit more than double. So you are already paying for that refresh. So I then say, okay, well, if the property is valued at the same as what I can get for the standard demand from non-defence housing, would I buy something different in defence housing and only have a 7% management fee or an 8% management fee, and then get the capital growth of the area? So I don't necessarily see why I would need to go to defence housing to do that. I'd potentially get a better return. I'm banking that money in terms of the models, and we talk about 1.5% that we set aside for maintenance and upkeep of the property every year on those properties, indexing at 3%. So I don't know why I need to get the defence housing in that area, because if it is in a good area and it's got proven scarcity, your occupancy rate is going to be around that sort of 95 to 98% anyway. So why would you necessarily need to pay a premium for that in terms of going into defence housing?
But it gives you a nice warm fuzzy feeling whenever you're a first time investor and someone says anything to the effect around rental guarantee. It makes you feel good. It makes you think, well, there's the risk mitigation if someone's going to guarantee me some rent. And therefore, I find that this particular segment fits into that because it's long-term tenants. They're always going to be there. They're backed by the Defence Force. So for that reason, I understand why they can be appealing. But I guess as an overarching framework, we always try and answer these questions with the framework, is I prefer to buy into a suburb where there's a variation of life cycles and people within it. And by that, you mean just to the point where there's a variation of demographic that lives there. We obviously want the income up, but someone might be doing a job in this industry and someone might be doing a job in this industry and someone might be in another. And equally, I want to have a scenario where some people might have the home fully paid off. Some people might have a 40% LVR. Some people might have a 90% of LVR, because that diversification helps underpin the strength of that particular suburb. Because if someone falls out of it, there's someone very much willing to fall in. Versus if you're in the mortgage belt, everyone's at the same level of mortgage, same credit card, same amount of kids, same life cycle, that sort of stuff. So there's a defence housing estate in Western Australia on the coast, wonderful location, right on the beach. But the whole estate is defence, which to me, it almost defies the location does the 80% of the heavy lifting, because the whole concentration of this particular segment is actually just one segment of the market. So therefore, no owner-occupier demand. It's all just investors. Someone wants to sell, It's another investor who's buying.
Capital growth is compromised, right?
Absolutely. So I guess my answer to this, and I want to be very respectful of anyone who has these types of investments, is Ben and I have seen lots of investors and lots of successful investors over time. And generally speaking, the successful investors don't hold this type of property, anything that has any form of warm fuzzy around the rental. They're quite happy to back themselves to buy the right asset and put it into the marketplace to have a willing landlord and a willing tenant prepared to meet where the market's at. So I think if you break it down, the comfort and the security that comes from around the rental comes at a cost, and it comes at a price to get that security and that warm fuzzy feeling.
Yeah. So again, it's you're getting our general response here. There are always exceptions to the rule, in terms of if for whatever reason you're one of only 5 defence houses in that whole local urban area, then great. And I think I've said this before on the podcast. I had a friend of ours in Cronulla who had a property. He just contacted defence housing before it was all sophisticated. So I'm going back 15 years. And he basically presented that property and they said, yeah, we absolutely need one in this area. That's perfect. So he actually was proactive, got the rental guarantee, but he did it on his terms, and he bought it in a suburb like Cronulla, which is very, very highly prized. So he got the capital growth and he got the rental because he was clever. And there are other opportunities that you can do where you can contact government agencies, and they do need certain type of housing stock in certain areas, and you can potentially get a government tenant. So that type of stuff is really proactive. But the fact that they've homogenised defence housing now and it's all sort of run through a standardised program, it's that stuff. And again, we want to be very respectful here because it does mitigate risk. But in terms of what we talk about and picking the eyes out of the market, you can't do it usually with defence housing.